The Oklahoma City Thunder see their losing streak swell to 5. They sign Aaron Wiggins to a NBA contract. Darius Baisley and Alexei Pokusevsky are starting to roll. Have they figured it out? Have they put it all together? Find out on today's episode of Locked On Thunder on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, brought to you by BetOnline.net. You're going to dive into Oklahoma City Thunder signing Aaron Wiggins to a full-time NBA deal. What comes next for that open two-way spot? The Thunder take on the Bulls and Sixers in a back-to-back. Pokusevsky playing very well, and has Darius Baisley finally put it all together. But again, this show is brought to you by BetOnline.net. BetOnline has you covered the season for all the props and odds and lines, more of them than ever before. BetOnline is where the game starts. And let's start with Aaron Wiggins and his new NBA contract. So Aaron Wiggins was the 55th overall pick in the 2021 NBA draft. He signs a 4-year deal. He was on that two-way contract. This continues the streak of Sam Presti converting two-way contracts into standard NBA deals. Of course, with Deonte Burton and Lou Dort and Moses Brown. And then you find the success with Lou Dort. You're hoping to find that same success with Aaron Wiggins. So this is how the Wiggins deal breaks down. $1 million this year, roughly. 1.5 next year, fully guaranteed. 1.8 the year after that, a non-guaranteed year 3, and then a $1.9 million club option in year 4. He hits restricted free agency in 2025-2026. He played in 32 games so far with 18 starts, averaging 7 points per game, 3 rebounds per game, an assist, and 48% shooting from the floor, 32% from deep, and 69% at the line, 36% in the corner as a three-point shooter. He's only 23 years old. His per 100 possessions, they go up to 16.5 points per game, 8 rebounds, 2 steals, and nearly 2 assists a game as well. Huge defensive upside. And this move was a long time coming. We all predicted it for so long, and mentioning it whenever Gabriel Deck got waived, that spot was for Wiggins, but not right away. They wanted to see how they could utilize their roster at the deadline and taking on maybe 2-for-1 deals, salary dumps. They were evaluating everything. They eventually did make that trade for KZ Okpala over the weekend. We talked about that over the weekend, where how they traded for him and then waived him. That trade was made on Wednesday, and that was kind of all that was out there for the trade deadline. So they made the trade for KZ Okpala to waive him, to utilize that compensation as an amendment to the first-round pick with the Heat and make their first-round pick better. So after the dust settled on the deadline and everything cleared out, they remained with that open roster spot, and they signed Aaron Wiggins to a full-time deal, as we all expected them to do. And so, obviously, this is huge for Aaron Wiggins, who was 5 picks away from being undrafted, 5 picks away from suffering the same fate as Lou Dort and going undrafted. And so he was in that same boat as Lou Dort, even though his name was called by Mark Tatum in the second round. Still, he had to prove himself. He had to assert himself into this league. Nothing was guaranteed to him. Nothing was handed to him. And on that two-way deal, he played exceptional. He was one of the most highly impactful rookies in this entire class, which is a historic one. And in this season, he, of course, had the ankle injury that sidelined him until this weekend, but still, he was very good in those 30-some games he played prior to the injury. And so what does this mean for the future? Now, you hope that he is productive. Matching Lou Dort's productivity would be very hard, as another guy who got his contract guaranteed from the two-way deal to a standard NBA deal, because Lou Dort has turned himself into one of the best defenders in the NBA, a starting level player on different teams, and somebody who around the league, star players respect when they go up against him. So that's going to be very hard to do. However, I do think that this is different than Moses Brown or Deonte Burton or any of these other two-way guys you might remember from years past. This is something that's more sustainable, something that is more just fluid, not as fluid as those other guys, right? with Moses Brown last year. I said on the podcast forever, he was a gimmicky player, and it's nice that he's collecting all these stats on a rebounding team. He works very hard, seems like a really good guy, but it was a gimmick that you can only really use him in matchup based situations where you're just trying to throw something new out there and a different wrinkle at your, opposition. So I think that with this situation with Wiggins, you will have the opportunity now to see him progress and see him grow as a player. Obviously, just 23 years old, but also have more success than Moses Brown or Deontay Burton, who had their contracts converted. And the reason for that is, as a rookie, Aaron Wiggins is playing really good defense. Like, he is playing above average defense as a rookie, which is very hard to do in the NBA. And this is an organization that prides itself on developing defense and squeezing out any talent you have defensively. And I think that they can make him from an above average defender to a good defender to an elite defender one day. And his 3-point shot has a ton of upside as well. And he can be a nice 3-and-D option. So again, you hope he matches the productivity from Lu Dort in the sense of he sticks around all 4 years of this deal, and he's good enough to be on this team for 4 years at least. But his version of productivity looks different than Lu Dort's, because for Wiggins, let's not kind of put too much on him right now just because his deal got converted. He's still a guy who, with everything going right, I think can be somebody who has a huge impact on a playoff series, who is in your 8-9 man rotation whenever these things start to shrink and you start to try to win more games in the clutch. He can be a 3-and-D guy. Is he going to be a starter? Is he going to be an all-star caliber player? Is he going to be an all-defensive guy? Is he going to be a defensive player of the year candidate? Is he going to be an all-NBA guy? No, I think he's going to be a solid player that does the right thing on the floor each and every game, that helps you lock down second units and helps you spark an offense whenever you have all these creators that you're compiling, right? Think of how many creators the Thunder already have. SGA, Josh Giddey, Trey Mann creates for himself and others. They have all these creators. This is a nice option for them to kick out to. So a 3-and-D guy that can be in your 9-man, 8-man playoff rotation, that's incredibly valuable. And to get that at pick 55 is something that helps leap your projected timeline forward by quite a bit. And so I do think that this has more staying power than Burton or Brown, even if it's not the incredible ceiling that Lu Dort has hit with being that defensive stalwart that can change series and can change organizations and can do the things Lu Dort can do. But there is no shame in being a guy who's going to be a highly impactful playoff player. That's hard to find in the NBA. Again, think of how many Thunder teams in the past have had the star power, but haven't had the depth. Wiggins is an incredible depth piece. Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, incredible depth piece. You got to find your star, right? Your star to co-sign with SGA and Giddey, right? You got to find that other star with them, which is going to be very hard, but you're filling out a nice and lengthy roster right now, which is going to help you in the long run, even if it's not the flashy picks right now, right? Everyone's fiending for Josh Giddey, of course, and SGA as they're kind of the flashy names, but the difference in getting over that hump is not only those guys, but it's also guys like Jerry and Wiggins. So happy for him, who came into this league with nothing guaranteed to him, almost went undrafted, and was able to solidify himself in this league. I mean, I think that he will survive all 4 years of this deal. I think that he'll be a Dorian Finney-Smith type of guy, where take a shot on him in the draft, and you just have really no expectations with him, and then he becomes one of the best 3-and-D guys that you can have, and signs a massive extension at the end of this 4-year deal. So I'm rooting for him to have that success. I think he will. That's my projection for him. And now Dorian Finney-Smith is a starting level player for the Mavericks and is a guy that's helping Luka try to get over that hump and win a playoff series this season. So we'll see. We'll see what happens on the Wiggins front, but congratulations to him for getting that full-time NBA deal. So we'll talk about the back-to-back games, including Pokashevsky and Baisley coming up. But first, I want to say right now, about our good friends over at Built Bar. Built Bar is a fantastic protein bar that tastes just like a candy bar. It's fantastic, folks. And around this time, you usually kind of give up on your New Year's resolutions, but with Built Bar, it's easy to stay the course if you're trying to be like me and trying to diet right and do all the things you need to do to be healthier. The reason why Built Bar is so incredible is that it not only gives you energy, it's not only high in protein, low in calories, not only tastes like a candy bar, but there are so many different flavored options for you to choose from. During those long days, you can just be powered by a Built Bar. They're fantastic for you. And again, the different options really help me personally because there's not that repetition. They have incredible flavors like cookies and cream, which is my personal favorite. They have a new one, white chocolate cookies and cream, which is going to be my next favorite. And then coconut almond, coconut mint brownie, double chocolate, salted caramel. Just they have so many ones to choose from and coming out with new flavors each and every day that you can find on built.com. It's just easy to cycle through and never get bored of doing the right thing and eating Built Bar. So go to built.com and use the promo code LOCK15. That's 15% off your next order. Built.com, promo code LOCK15, 15% off your next order at built.com. We are back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your teams every day. Folks, thank you for making Locked On Thunder your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking Thunder basketball. For your second listen, go check out the Locked On Now podcast. Locked On Now is a nightly recap show of every NBA game with breakdowns from our local expert. It's free and available on all platforms wherever you get podcasts from, including the Locked On NBA YouTube channel. So go back and listen to those every single morning from the night before. You're going to hear local analysis on every single game. That way you're caught up to date on what's happening around the association. So go check it out, Locked On Now podcast, and also on the Locked On NBA YouTube page, wherever you get podcasts from. It's free and available, just like we are. Free and available every single time. So subscribe for free across all platforms, including the platform of YouTube. So make sure you're doing that for Locked On Thunder and Locked On Now. If you've been a longtime listener of Locked On Thunder, you know that since I took over this podcast before the bubble, I've been all about Darius Bazley. And he's starting to turn the corner a little bit. Bazley versus the Bulls, 3 blocks, 2 steals, 5 assists, 8 rebounds, 17 points. Against the Sixers, 14 points, a block, a steal, an assist, 15 rebounds, 50% from the floor, 50% from 3. In the last 5 games, Darius Bazley has started all 5 of them, 16 points per game, 2 assists per game, a rebound per game, I should say a block per game, 8 rebounds per game, 75% from the line, 38% from 3, nearly 39%, 38.9% from 3 on 3 attempts per game, 42% from the floor, a turnover and a foul a game. Just 1 turnover, 1 foul in 33 minutes per game. The big thing here to me, not only is he now in this last 5-game stretch, which again is a small sample size, but this last 5-game stretch, he's not only hitting his threes at a high enough clip to be a really good player, given his defensive approach and his defensive impact, but he's cutting down on those turnovers. And while playing elite defense, he's only fouling once per game in this last 5 stretch, which is a big deal. Because whenever you play elite defense, you want to stay on the floor. And you can't stay on the floor if you're in foul trouble for half the game. That separates defenders, right? There's a lot of categories of defenders. There's the guys who don't even try. There's the guys who try and just aren't physically gifted enough to stay in front of these specimens in the NBA that are just incredible and jaw-dropping and masterful. And then there's average defenders. And then there's good defenders. And the leap from good to great is, can you stay on the floor defensively? Once you're a good defender, can you stay there by not fouling? By not picking up 2 quick ones in the first quarter? Now they've got to pull you, and now we're running from the end of the first quarter to the middle of the second quarter without one of our best defenders. And Bazley avoiding fouls has been great because he can still stay in games, especially with the Thunder's lack of depth at times in this stretch, given their injuries. But another big factor is the 1 turnover per game. Especially as you see Bazley play better and gain confidence and get cooking offensively and adding that offensive tool to his defense. How many times have we seen Bazley start to feel it offensively and then just drive to the rim on 4 people, spinning through the lane, he loses the ball? Or drives the lane on 4 people, jumps in the air, realizes, oh wait, there's literally 4 hands on my face, and tries to pass out of it, and it's just an errant pass from himself jumping in the air, and it's another turnover. Ducking his head, having tunnel vision at the rim, has created a ton of turnovers for Darius Bazley. A ton of them. And it mostly comes when he's playing well. Or trying to force things. And right now, he's playing well. He's not forcing things, and he's not doing those bad habits anymore. And again, 5 games is a small sample size. But we've said it all season long, so we have to give him credit whenever he does it. He's had a really good time in his career, and a really easy time in his career of building bad games onto bad games. He's been very bad at his career in terms of turning good games into good games. So stacking success for him has been a big problem. And now that he is stacking success, he does need credit for it, especially with the way that this fan base as a whole has kind of reacted to him throughout the last 2 years. And so maybe Baisley's figured it out. Maybe he's found out the secret formula on how he himself can be a very good NBA player. Or maybe this is just a good 5-game stretch, and tonight against the Knicks, he'll just be bad. But either way, these 5 games right here deserve to be celebrated. I'm not sure which one it is. You know that my personal belief is that Darius Baisley can be a very impactful NBA player, can be a starting level player, if not a 7th man, 6th man on a rotation or in a rotation for any NBA team, including good championship level teams. And you know that I think he's so athletic and long and has great defense and can be utilized offensively better than the Thunder utilized him last year. They're getting better at it this year in terms of putting him in good spots to succeed, but still not great at it. And personally, I'm buying into this 5-game streak, but I don't blame anybody who still has the reservations about it. But we should all agree that he deserves a ton of credit for it. Another player with a great short streak is Aleksej Pokusevski. Pokusevski looks like he's figured it out. He looks much more relaxed, much more comfortable than he ever has. And I think it's important to note he's 20 years old. He's a 7-footer. He's played 85 career NBA games. A normal NBA season is 82 games. So he's barely over rookie status, so to say. In his last 4 games, he's averaging 13 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, an assist, a steal, and nearly 2 blocks per game. He's shooting 61% from the floor and 50% from 3. Against the Bulls, 7 points, 3 blocks, 4 rebounds. The Sixers, 15 points, a block, a steal, 6 rebounds. This 4-game stretch, albeit a small sample size, is why you see this organization continue to pour into Pokusevski. And why I said a couple weeks ago, this organization is not going to give up on Poku because it's Presti's project. It's somebody that Sam Presti believes in. He couldn't even contain his excitement during the draft portion, right? Draft cycle of his 2022 NBA draft. Everybody knew he was going to take Pokusevski. The Mavericks and other teams used that as leverage to get Presti to trade up to the Timberwolves pick to get Pokusevski. And you don't give up on a player who you knew coming in was going to be a long-term project, who Fran Fraschilla, who's one of the best overseas scouts there is, said he's 2 years away from being 2 years away on draft night. You don't give up on him after 82 games, after 85 games. You just don't. You just don't. And these blue stints have been good for him, being with the G League team and seeing his role change with the blue versus with the Thunder has been good for him. And the reason I'm more excited for the second half of the season, if you kind of count the All-Star break as the halfway point, even though mathematically it's not, for the second half of the All-Star break for Pokusevski, is that I think that he'll get the more stability of minutes in a rotation, and also because I think he's finally putting it together in the sense of he's never looked this confident and this relaxed. There's been times where Pokusevski takes wild shots or attempts wild passes, and we kind of attribute that to confidence. And I've done it too. I think it's more so should be attributed to him kind of pressing to impress, right? Trying to do too much. Maybe even faux confidence, if you want to put it that way. But he's making some fantastic reads on both ends of the floor. He's playing a measured and mature game. And this is why early in the year, you saw the Thunder limit his minutes. And he was playing at times 5 minutes, going 3 games without playing. Then 10 minutes here, then 12 here. And then a great first half here, and why didn't he play the second half? It's because the Thunder were trying to get him and pull the reins on him to get him to this moment right now, where you can let the leash off him and play him 20 minutes a night, 22 minutes a night, 30 minutes even, and have him still stay measured as if he's only going to play 5. And still play under control and not try to do too much. His basketball savviness has looked a lot better over these last 4 games. It really has. It looks like he's been in the film room. I know that we all want to see Pokusevski in the weight room, and we all overblow how much he needs to gain weight and muscle. As I said this summer, there's a way for Pokusevski to carve out a better NBA path for him than just simply, well, he's got to bulk up. He's got to eat 50 burgers a day and bulk up. That is a lazy cop-out for explaining Pokusevski's game. It's easy to say, but there's a pathway for him to be great without putting on 50 pounds of muscle. Just because he looks like a twig doesn't mean he cannot use his size to his advantage. And these 14 minutes against Chicago And over this weekend, this 4-game stretch, he's looked fantastic. So we'll see how it continues to develop and grow as we continue this season and into next year as well. I also said before the season that Poku might not take that big leap year 1 to 2. He might be a player that's very common in the NBA that takes a leap year 2 to 3. So a lot to look forward to with Pokusevski. And also a lot to look forward to when you go to our good friends over at betonline.net. Football might be over this season, but basketball is in full swing, both pro and college hoops, for all the latest odds, totals, player performance props, and wherever else you need to get fired up to see where the next fired coach is going to land. BetOnline.net is the number one spot for your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best sports for your sports betting source. Podcast, news, scores, odds, props, lines, everything. They have it all this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net has hockey, boxing, UFC, and even Olympic coverage and information. So head on over to the website today. And for the latest mobile updates, go check them out at betonline.net. BetOnline is where the game starts. See all the trends of the latest news, action, and lines at betonline.net, where the game starts. Thank you for making Locked On Thunder your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking Thunder basketball. Make sure you go check out Locked On Bets also for your second listen. It's your daily one-stop shop for all gambling needs. Locked On Bets is hosted by your boy Q with expert breakdowns and analysis from our great guy over at Lee Sterling, who's done this for a long, long time. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts from, including on YouTube, Locked On Bets. Go check them out. We are back on the Locked On Thunder Podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your teams every day. Huge shout out to Lou Dort. 5 threes, a steal, 2 rebounds, an assist. That's 14 free throw attempts. He made 10 of them, but 14 free throw attempts. 5 for 12 from 3, 8 for 19 overall, 31 points, 3 fouls, 1 turnover, 37 minutes. We talked about this last year with SGA, but the difference in your scoring category, 5 points per game to 10 points per game, 10 to 15, 20 to 25, things like that, is simply free throw attempts and the amount of times you can get to the line. Now, granted, Lou Dort will not get to the line 14 times every single game, but that number continuing to rise will be great for Lou Dort's game. And tonight he also hit 5 threes, so that was very impressive as well. The Thunder had a block party against Chicago. It was Roby with 3 blocks and 3 steals, Bays with 3 blocks, and Poku with 3 blocks. That really set the tone. That's the 10th time in Thunder history that they've done that, had 3 players with 3 blocks, and the first time since 2016 that they've done that. Josh Giddey had his second career triple-double. He's the first and second youngest player to notch a triple-double now. He played in 32 minutes, 11 points, 10 assists, 12 rebounds, 3 turnovers, 1 for 2 from 3, 40% from the floor. I mentioned the minutes played, 32, because Mark has talked about how the Thunder are going to try to pull back his minutes a bit due to the fact that he's never played in a season this long before and never had this workload before, and they want to make sure they're managing him very well. I wonder if, as he creeps back up to 32 minutes in this game, I wonder if post-All-Star break, he gets another period of time where he gets ramped back up before the end of the year where he's kind of eased back down as he starts to hit that rookie wall that everyone hits, including last year. We saw Theo Maledon last year, who led the team in minutes played last year. We saw him hit a rookie wall. So it happens to everybody, and it'll surely happen to Giddey more than likely. And we'll see how the Thunder manage that, especially with his minutes played, because that is a big deal to have that different kind of taxing workload on you that you had before. So I think that's an adjustment period from him. He's mentioned before how he talks to a lot of the other Australian players who have made the jump to the NBA and have very successful careers about how they manage their bodies and time and how they manage everything about this new and a different and longer season. So he has a lot of good mentors in that capacity that'll really help him. His dad and his mom were professional players. His dad was also a professional coach. Like, he's got a lot of good people in his corner to kind of guide him through this transition. And one of those things that help guide him is the fact that the Thunder are taking some loads off him on certain nights to help manage the wear and tear throughout an NBA season. In this game, Theo Maledon, Derek Favors, and Vic Christie were DNP CDs. And then, of course, SGA still out with that ankle injury. Mike Muscala still out with an ankle injury. These two guys will be both looked at the All-Star break. And Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, of course, is still out with that foot injury. About 5 more weeks to go on Jeremiah Robinson-Earl and that foot injury. For the Bulls, they did not have Alonzo Ball or Caruso or Levine or Patrick Williams or Javonte Green. The Thunder start Josh Giddey, Trey Mann, Isaiah Roby, Darius Bazley, and Lou Dort. The Bulls start Ayo, Kobe White, Troy Brown Jr., DeMar DeRozan, and Nikola Vucevic. The mail pick was Lou Dort. Lou Dort hit 5 of them, so I was right. And the MVP of this game, I'm going to give it to Pokusevski. because he deserves to have all the praise after his slow start to the year. And the Bulls win 106-101. In this game on Saturday, it's a 5-game losing streak for the Thunder. They take on the New York Knicks tonight on Valentine's Day. So we'll recap that game tonight as well. It's a 5-day-week podcast talking Thunder basketball. Do not miss it. Subscribe for free across all platforms. The Thunder sit 17-39. They're 5 games back of the worst record in the NBA. And we'll see what happens tonight in the Paycom Center against the Knicks, who, whenever the Thunder do not have Lou Dort, SGA, Muscala, or Jeremiah Robinson-Earl. And so we'll see how that all fares tomorrow on Locked On Thunder. Make sure you're there. Make sure you're subscribing. Make sure you're listening every single day. And for live updates, follow me on Twitter at Ryland_Styles. And until then, be good and be good to one another.